A warm welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra and you're watching another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. Over the past decade, India's foreign policy has undergone a significant transformation, guided by a nation first approach that has strengthened its global standing and deepened strategic partnerships. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi becomes the longest continuously serving elected Prime Minister in India's history, the country is expanding its diplomatic outreach across the neighborhood and the Indo-Pacific. Recent high level engagements with Nepal and Indonesia underscore India's focus on regional cooperation, connectivity, and shared growth.
Over the past 12 years, India has transformed its global image from asking why India to inspiring why not India. Under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, New Delhi has adopted a more confident, proactive, and strategically autonomous foreign policy, positioning itself as a key voice in global affairs. The milestone comes as India expands its diplomatic outreach with a focus on connectivity, economic growth, and strategic partnerships. Reflecting this momentum, Nepal's Foreign Minister Shishir Khanal visited New Delhi on the first ministerial level trip by Kathmandu's new government. The talks focused on connectivity, energy cooperation, and strengthening bilateral ties, with Nepal reaffirming its commitment to resolving outstanding issues through dialogue and established mechanisms.
I found our engagement with National Security Advisor, External Affairs Minister and his team yesterday very productive and engaging, and we've discussed on a variety of issues from connectivity, bilateral relationship to energy and multilateral engagements. So on all fronts, we've discussed very openly through open heart, and we've also discussed about solving the outstanding issues that remains between the two countries through the existing mechanisms that we have, and there are many mechanisms. So first priority is to actually activating those mechanisms.
Beyond its neighborhood, India continued to deepen ties in the Indo-Pacific. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Indonesian Foreign Minister Sugiono met in New Delhi to review the growing India-Indonesia partnership. The discussions focused on regional and global developments, with both sides reaffirming their commitment to closer cooperation and stronger coordination in regional and multilateral forums, underscoring the steady momentum in ties between the two nations.
We had an opportunity to meet just last month on the sidelines of the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting, and I really appreciate your taking time out to visit India again. Our joint commission is happening after 4 years, and I think it's important to recognize that in those 4 years, actually we made good progress in our bilateral relations. We celebrated the 75 years of establishment of our bilateral ties in 2025. We had the honor to welcome President Prabowo on his state visit and as chief guest for India's 76th Republic Day last year. When I had called on His Excellency during that visit, I very much valued the guidance provided by him on further developing our multifaceted bilateral ties.
As New Delhi and Jakarta deepen their engagement, Indonesia stressed the importance of sustained dialogue and closer coordination to further strengthen the strategic partnership.
Despite of the timing, I hope that this visit will put closeness and the deeper relations between both of our countries. And I think it is also a timely and important meeting to allow us to review on the progress of our cooperation since the last JCM we held in 2022 to address outstanding subjects that both to our common interests and follow up the result of the leaders' meeting during President Prabowo visit to India, and of course to chart the way forward to translate this partnership into more concrete outcomes.
As Prime Minister Modi's tenure reaches a historic milestone, New Delhi's foreign policy continues to project India as a confident, influential, and increasingly indispensable voice on the global stage.
Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir is experiencing one of the most significant periods of unrest in recent years. Violent confrontation between demonstrators and security personnel have resulted in several fatalities, sparking widespread strikes, large-scale arrests, and accusations of human rights violations. As authorities in Islamabad tighten measures against dissent, concerns are mounting internationally over the worsening situation in the region and the handling of civilians protesting for greater political representation and economic justice. A report.
Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir has been rocked by deadly violence after security forces allegedly opened fire during anti-government protests in Rawalakot, leaving several people dead and dozens injured. The unrest was triggered by growing public anger over long-standing political grievances and a controversial decision to retain 12 reserved assembly seats for refugees living outside the territory ahead of elections scheduled for July. The situation escalated after authorities banned the Joint Awami Action Committee or JAAC, a civil society alliance that has spearheaded protests over governance, economic hardship and political representation. Following the clashes, authorities launched a sweeping crackdown, filed sedition cases against key leaders, announced rewards for their arrest and deployed additional security forces across the region. Reports also indicate internet restrictions and mass detentions amid growing fears of further violence. Amnesty International has expressed concern over the deteriorating human rights situation in the territory.
There are disturbing allegations that live fire was used against peaceful civilians, leading to the tragic loss of life and widespread fear across the region. The people of Pakistani-occupied Jammu and Kashmir have the right to peaceful assembly. They have the right to raise their voices without fear of bullets, intimidation or repression. The deployment of large number of paramilitary and security personnel into the territory has created an atmosphere of fear and instability. Serious allegations are now being raised by local communities concerning disproportionate force, arbitrary detentions, intimidation, and grave human rights violations. These allegations require urgent international scrutiny. Today, I respectfully appeal to the United Nations and the United Nations Security Council not to ignore the suffering of our civilians. I call for the immediate intervention of the international community to prevent further escalation and bloodshed.
The violence has sparked widespread outrage across PoJK, prompting protest groups to call for a region-wide shutdown. Cities and towns, including the capital Muzaffarabad, came to a standstill as markets, businesses and transport services remained shut in support of the strike. The shutdown reflected growing frustration among residents who accused Islamabad of suppressing local voices while refusing to address long-standing demands for political rights and greater accountability. Protest leaders argued that the heavy deployment of police and paramilitary forces has only deepened public anger and widened the trust deficit between local communities and the authorities.
जॉइंट एक्शन कमेटी के कॉल पर पूरे आज़ाद कश्मीर की तरह आज़ाद कश्मीर के सबसे बड़े कैपिटल सिटी जो है मुजफ्फराबाद 5.5 लाख आबादी को आज आप देख लीजिए, ये टोटली वीरान है, मुकम्मल सुनसान है। इसकी वजह है कि हर दुकान और हर मार्केट, हर कूचा, हर गली, हर बाजार जो है वो मुकम्मल बंद है। इंसान बिल्कुल नापैद हो चुके हैं, ऐसे लगता है जैसे इस बस्ती में कोई रहता नहीं। ये एक बड़ा मुहज़्ज़ब पुरअमन डिसेंट अंदाज का एहतजाज है, कानून के दायरे के अंदर रहते हुए, आइन के दायरे के अंदर रहते हुए एहतजाज है। मुस्तरद कर रहा है हुकूमत के बयानी को कि ये लोग दहशतगर्द हैं, ये लोग पुरअमन हैं। दहशतगर्द जो है वो हुकूमत है जो जबर के ज़रिए, ताकत के ज़रिए इस पुरअमन सदा को दबाने की कोशिश करती है। लेकिन आज आप देख लें, हुकूमत आज़ाद कश्मीर में जबर की ताकत का इस्तेमाल करके मुकम्मल नाकाम हो चुकी है।
As the crackdown intensified, residents continued to call for dialogue instead of force. Many argued that the movement is not directed against Pakistan itself but against decades of perceived political marginalization and denial of rights. The current crisis has its roots in broader grievances that has fueled repeated demonstrations over the past several years, including protests over soaring electricity prices, food inflation, governance failures, and demands for greater local representation. Analysts say the latest unrest highlights growing dissatisfaction with Islamabad's handling of the region and exposes deeper questions about autonomy and democratic participation in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
भाईचारे से आप बात करें, आप बैठे टेबल टॉक करें और पाकिस्तान से बड़े लोगों को लाएं, इनके साथ बात करवाएं। ये लोग पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ तो नहीं है, ये तो किसी फौज के खिलाफ नहीं है, ये अपने हकूक मांग रहे। 70 साल से आपने हमें फुदू लगाया हुआ है, 70 साल से आप हमारे हकूक खा रहे हैं।
Despite arrests, sedition charges, and a heightened security presence, protesters have shown no signs of backing down. The strike received widespread support across the territory, underscoring the scale of public anger against the administration. The confrontation comes at a sensitive time ahead of regional elections and threatens to further destabilize a territory already grappling with economic challenges and political uncertainty.
9 जून से आज पूरे आज़ाद कश्मीर में ताऊबट से लेकर बनाले तक शटर डाउन पहिया जाम है। तो इसमें एक्शन कमेटी की काल पर लोगों ने लब्बैक कहा और मुकम्मल और खामोशी के जरिए लोगों ने अपना जायज़ रिकॉर्ड करा दिया। ये जब तक वो एक्शन कमेटी वाले इस कॉल ऑफ नहीं करते, ये कंटिन्यू रहेगी, पब्लिक कितने दिन रहती है।
India has strongly condemned the killings and accused Pakistan of attempting to divert international attention from what New Delhi described as serious human rights violations in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Addressing reporters, Indian External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randir Jaiswal said reports of police brutality, deaths and injuries among civilians reflected a disturbing pattern of repression.
We continue to see in this context a pattern of fake news and videos emanating from Pakistan. It is a desperate attempt by Pakistan to cover up its own failings and deflect attention away from its human rights abuses. There are reports of police brutality, which you would have seen. There are several reports in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir in which several people have been killed. There are several more who have been injured. We hope the international community will hold Pakistan accountable for its misdeeds and its abuses.
For now, Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir remains tense. Streets that were once bustling have fallen silent, while demands for justice, political representation, and accountability continue to grow louder. As authorities pursue protest leaders and tighten security measures, the crisis is rapidly evolving into a broader challenge to Islamabad's governance of the territory.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
The Zojela Tunnel, one of India's most ambitious infrastructure projects, achieved a major milestone with the successful breakthrough of its main tunnel. The development brings the project set to become the world's longest single-tube bi-directional road tunnel at such a high altitude, significantly closer to completion. Malaysia's Petronas has signed a long-term agreement to supply Japanese power producer JERA with 2 million tons of liquefied natural gas annually for 20 years starting in 2028. The deal comes as Japan moves to strengthen its energy security amid concerns over a global LNG supply squeeze triggered by the conflict involving Iran. Alongside the LNG pact, Malaysia and Japan agreed to cooperate on security-stable supplies of fertilizer raw materials and enhancing the resilience of critical mineral supply chains. Unionized employees of South Korean tech giant Kakao held a 4-hour strike and protest rally calling for revisions to the company's bonus structure and stronger guarantees for job security. Hundreds of workers dressed in black t-shirts and carrying white umbrellas walked out of Kakao's offices and gathered at a nearby square in Pangyo, a major technology hub in Seonggam. Kakao, the operator of South Korea's most widely used messaging platform, announced last month that it was unable to secure a wage agreement with the union despite government-mediated negotiations.
Concerns are growing over the situation of women in Afghanistan after a rare protest in the country's western Herat province turned violent. Demonstrators had gathered to voice their opposition to the reported detention of women and girls over alleged dress code violations. According to reports, Taliban forces opened fire during the protest, resulting in casualties, including a woman and the child. The incident has once again drawn attention to restrictions on women's rights and the challenges faced by those speaking out against Taliban policies. Take a look.
Nearly 5 years after returning to power, the Taliban continue to tighten restrictions on women and girls across Afghanistan. From banning secondary and higher education to limiting employment, public participation and freedom of movement, the regime has imposed some of the world's harshest restrictions on women. Human rights groups have repeatedly warned that Afghan women are being systematically pushed out of public life, while dissent against these policies is often met with the intimidation, arrests and violence. The latest example of this repression unfolded in Afghanistan's western Herat province, where a Taliban crackdown on alleged dress code violations sparked a rare public protest. Dozens of women and local residents took to the streets to oppose the detention of women and girls accused of not complying with the Taliban's strict interpretation of Islamic dress rules. According to reports, Taliban security forces responded by opening fire on the protesters, turning a peaceful demonstration into a deadly confrontation. At least 2 people, including a young boy, were killed while several others were injured. Witnesses described the scenes of panic as demonstrators fled the area amid gunfire.
It turns out the Taliban seem to have, as per reports, killed 2 people in protests against the hijab in Herat. Now we need to remember Herat is in fact a Shia majority town in the west of Afghanistan near the Iranian border. In my visit there, I found it to be perhaps the most permissive of most of the major Afghan cities. Now the one thing we need to remember is Afghanistan is not a democracy. You can't just come out on the street and protest for anything at all. The curious thing, of course, is the video that we have is very limited. There are photographers who are claiming 2 dead. There are people who are claiming 2 dead. We don't have any videos so far, and in a age where everything gets recorded, we need to treat these reports with caution. That said, again, I repeat, Afghanistan is not a democracy.
As restrictions tighten and opportunities for women continue to diminish, the incidents underscores the broader crisis for confronting Afghan society, one marked by repression, fear and an uncertain future for millions of women and girls.
We also need to remember that, the protests against hijab, they are not new. They have happened before also in Afghanistan. I think this has been the most severe reaction to it so far. But we also don't know what the caliber of protest was. Was it a large protest? Did it get violent? So on and so forth. I would really await more details.
The crackdown comes at a time when Afghanistan is grappling with multiple challenges, including a worsening humanitarian situation, widespread poverty, food insecurity, and international isolation. According to aid agencies, millions of Afghans continue to depend on humanitarian assistance, while economic hardship and unemployment remain widespread across the country. Instead of addressing these pressing challenges, the Taliban have devoted significant resources to enforcing social restrictions and curbing civil liberties, particularly for women and girls.
Now we take you to India's Andaman Islands, a tropical paradise known for pristine beaches, vibrant coral reefs and crystal clear waters. Our destination is Havelock Island in the Andamans, where turquoise seas, cool ocean breezes, and tranquil surroundings create the perfect escape into nature and serenity. The moment you arrive on Havelock Island, every detail feels postcard perfect. Delicate seashells scattered along the shoreline create natural patterns across the soft white sand. At Kala Patthar Beach, dramatic black rocks set against lush tropical greenery and crystal clear turquoise waters create a breathtaking coastal scape, making it a favorite among international travelers, beach lovers, and photography enthusiasts alike.
यहाँ पे बेस्ट है क्योंकि कोरल्स हमें मतलब नेक्ड आई से हम लोग देख सकते हैं पानी में, तो वो सबसे बेस्ट चीज़ है। कोरल्स के कारण सैंड भी वाइट है और जो छोटे छोटे इंसेक्ट्स रहते हैं उसके अंदर वो भी मतलब बाहर तक आ रहे हैं। अदरवाइज आप देखो तो किसी और पोर्ट पे ऐसा नहीं रहता है क्योंकि यहाँ पे बिल्कुल मतलब अनटच्ड जैसा एक्सपीरियंस है। तो दिस इज़ द बेस्ट पार्ट। इसको काला पत्थर बोलते हैं क्योंकि इसमें शायद जो रॉकी पार्ट ज़्यादा है, दैट इज़ वाई यहाँ पे लोग आते हैं फोटोग्राफी के लिए।
Soft white sands, turquoise waters, and lush tropical forest come together to create a landscape that feels straight out of a cinematic paradise. Across the beach, every traveler experiences the island differently. Some stroll along the shoreline, some pause to watch the endless waves, while others simply soak in the calm where every moment brings a rare sense of peace and escape.
A lovely setup. I was very impressed with the entire thing because we've been to Port Blair, we have been to Elephanta, and now here. Okay, so the way the places have been maintained, the beaches are pristine, so we don't nearly need to go anywhere outside. We just have to be in our own India and enjoy the beaches.
As the day fades over the island, the entire landscape transforms into a canvas of golden light, with the sky glowing in shades of orange and pink. It's this magical sunset hour that makes the beach a favorite for both photography lovers and travelers seeking peace and serenity. Many visitors also explore local markets, picking up handcrafted souvenirs made by island artisans, adding a touch of Andaman's culture to their journey. By evening, the vibrant shoreline gives way to cozy seaside cafes. These charming spaces become the perfect retreat where travelers relax after a day by the sea and soak in the island's calm, tropical atmosphere.
कैफे का एक्सपीरियंस आइलैंड में और सिटी के अंदर बहुत फर्क रहता है। ऑफ कोर्स मेनू पूरा वही रहता है, फ्रेंच फ्राइज से लेके एक नॉर्मल ब्रिस्टो की तरह वो नॉर्मल कैफे का ये रहता है, लेकिन जो एटमॉस्फेरिक फील होता है सिटी से बाहर, वो हॉन्किंग एंड वो साउंड पोल्यूशन से बाहर जो फील आता है, वो रिलैक्स्ड फील ना बहुत अच्छा लगता है।
Havelock Island is more than just a tourist destination. It is an unforgettable escape where nature, tranquility, and adventure come together in perfect harmony. And that is why every moment spent here turns into a memory travelers carry long after they leave the island behind. From crystal clear waters to unforgettable moments, Havelock has it all. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.